Bing bong. Take your pick back at your doorsteps, you dirty dogs. I want to start out. I got 2 requests from our following, our very extensive following and fan base. Spread the word. I feel good, and it's due to my Paisan brother, Nick Sirianni. I'm drinking Italian wine. I got Italian water. I got extra olive oil in my hair. This is a formal invitation to dinner at my grandfather's house. To you, Nick Sirianni. The whole family will be there. It's in South Philadelphia, born and raised. He can make any pasta, any sauce from scratch. So whatever you want, it's on the menu. I suggest the house special, personally, and that's clams and linguine. And we're flexible. We can do this any night. You let me know what works for you, and we'll make it happen. Secondly, this is a business venture I've had in my brain over the course of the last couple of days. I feel like there's certain cured meats that have been getting neglected through this charcuterie board craze. And one of them, salami. And I think if there's anybody in the meatpacking district, they should do a joint business venture with the Philadelphia Eagles, and we get it going. It's Sirianni salami.
Genius.
Right? I think it's already selling itself.
There's a market.
Girls will go crazy for it. I mean, he's a good-looking Italian dude. Who isn't going to want to go grab Sirianni salami?
The salami is often overlooked on the charcuterie board.
Rob, you get it. I knew you would.
Supersada is a standard. It's a centerpiece. The pepperoni, to contrast with the supersada, but I think some good Italian Genoa salami is that's what's missing from this charcuterie board craze that's going on.
I agree.
Raise your hand if you didn't get a charcuterie board for Christmas this year.
Yep, I blame the Metagons. They just don't understand. Everybody goes to this bullshit Trader Joe's prosciutto thinking that, like, get the fuck out of here. But yeah, everybody, welcome. Happy to have you again. Sean, happy to have you back. Rob, always a pleasure to see you. Rob, break it down for me. I know you're feeling good after this last Sunday, so walk me through your emotions and the outcome of how it all shook out.
Oh, well, it was an emotional day for sure. But it was a volume day. We came at it, and we posted 10 plays on 11 between you and I. It was a volume day for me. We went after it with a whole bunch of plays, and we came out on the right side. 8-3-1 to finish my slate. 9-3-1 between the two of us. All in all, I think that's a pretty good day. In any day like that, you're going to catch some good breaks. You're going to catch some bad breaks. The low and high within the span of a minute that I felt at the end of that Colts Raiders game, it's something that I can't really describe. Watching the Colts march down, the Raiders march down, and Carr hits Renfro from the 50, gets to about the 30, and doesn't look like he goes down, gets up, runs in for a touchdown. I'm holding my head. I'm saying that's the over. That's the total. That's it. We're doomed. And then they go back, they review it, and by a finger they call Renfro down, which actually hurt the Colts more than anything else. In that, with that call, allows the Raiders to then run out the clock, kick the field goal, 23-20 final. We cash our underplay at the 45.5. So we're going to catch good breaks, and we're going to catch bad breaks. If those following along on that, the crazy the Texans Niners game, what a barn burner that was. 10-7 with 10 minutes left in the game. San Francisco wins 23-7, kicks a meaningless field goal at the end of the game. And ruins our late Texans ad there on the cover with the 13.5. So that was a bad break. But like I said, those things tend to even out. And notwithstanding those breaks on either end, I think all in all, it was a solid day. The Cardinals, Dallas is who we thought they were. They're a good team. And on any given day, they could be a great team. But it's not a given, and it's not a guaranteed. And we saw that, on Sunday, against the Cardinals. It was a hard-fought game. Came down close at the end of the game, but I felt like the Cardinals were in control of that game throughout. How about the Ravens? We talked about, I mentioned on the pod on Sunday that I was willing to go in on the Ravens at 4 earlier in the week. I thought I was stealing a couple points with the possibility of Jackson coming and starting. Huntley gets a start. Jackson sits out another week. That line gets up as high as 7 at some spots, 6.5. Ravens didn't need the extra points. And frankly, they should have probably won outright. So they lose by a point to the Rams, cover that spread. So that was a good hit as well. Jets, Jets. I mean, that, talk about never in doubt. From the early goings, once the Jets put up that first touchdown, I thought, okay, this is that scrappy Jets team that we're going to see fighting against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. And frankly, if it wasn't for some bad coaching, some bad decision making at the end of that game, the Jets should have won that game outright as well. But we had 13.5. It was never really in doubt towards the end of the game. So I was more than happy to see Tom Brady, move the ball down the field with 59 seconds and no timeouts left. Vintage Tom Brady on Sunday. More than happy to sit back and watch that, knowing full well that our 13.5 was never in doubt. So that was great too. And then we capped the week off with Big Ben's last ride at Heinz Field. That line, we took it 3.5. Some spots had it at 3 earlier in the week. Went all the way from Sunday night to Monday down to -3 for Pittsburgh, and we were more than happy to take that 6.5 point swing going into Monday night, and that game was never in doubt either. So that was a great way to end this week. Overall, a great week. Again, when you put out volume plays like that, you're really hoping to get on the plus side. You're hoping to have hit more than not, of course, and it worked out in our favor. So I was really happy with the way the week went, of course, and I thought it was a good week. And for those that are following along, we made some money.
We definitely did. We had a absolute sweat as Eagles fans. Sean, walk us through your biggest takeaway of that one.
Jalen Hurts. Definitely Jalen Hurts and his progression just as a quarterback overall. This is a guy coming into the season I was definitely down on. Definitely willing to give him the season, but didn't expect much. And game after game, he's definitely improving. I thought he made all the right plays, and he just looked really solid overall. The run game still churning away. Even they weren't that effective early, stuck to it. I mean, they know who they are. They're physical. They're tough. Nick Sirianni says it every chance he gets in the locker room when they put those videos out after the game, and they just know who they are. What do you think about them?
I agree. I thought that was the best I've seen Jalen Hurts throw the ball since he was at Oklahoma. He made all the right decisions. He hit all the passes he's supposed to. Real quick, I wanted to bring it up. His passer rating, so he had a passer rating of 90 with 214 yards passing and then 44 yards rushing. I mean, that's a dangerous dude when he's playing well. And when he's able to air it out a little bit, they're going to give somebody hell in that wild card weekend. The thing that concerns me is if you come out slow like that against the quarterbacks you're going to face, I don't care how you try and shake it up, you're going to play a quarterback that could create too big of a gap for you to scrap back in, and then you're forced to pass the whole time, and that's just not going to work for the Eagles. You can't let Taylor Heineke look the way he did that first half.
Man, that first half.
That's my second man crush in the NFL. That's kind of why I felt.
Yeah, you love him.
But just I didn't want him to do that this past Sunday. It was nice to see him come down to earth a little bit in the second half. It's funny because for me, in the beginning, I'm like, this is what I knew was going to happen. But this team continues to prove me wrong. And Rob, we've been talking about it for a while that they're due for a blunder, but they find a way to get back in the game and then essentially dominate it once they get control back. What do you think's keeping that going?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the things that we've talked about that the Eagles need to work on, they continue to show up week after week, and they're overcoming those, right? So first on the offensive side, I tracked 7 design run calls in the first half, and I thought that was far too low. I thought there needs to be a stronger commitment to the run early so that those 2-3 yard runs in the first half become those 4-6 yard runs in the second half, a bit easier, right? So start to wear down that defense a bit earlier. So I thought there should have been a little bit more of a commitment to the run early on in the first half, and eventually they overcome that. They make adjustments at halftime, and they wind up with 26 pass calls, 20 and 34 rushes, a fairly even spread, and really, more runs than pass calls. And that's exactly what we want to see from this team. So I was happy that they turned it around in that regard after the halftime. And I think that is really what helped the offense get going in the second half. You talk about Jalen Hurts and his ability to kind of continue to progress throughout the season. I think one of the biggest facets of that, and it's something I didn't touch on in our recap of the plays on Sunday, but that's the emergence of Dallas Goedert as a TE1 for this team. Dallas Goedert, 830 receiving yards on the year. That's tied for 10th most in Eagles franchise history by a tight end in a single season, and that is with the first half of the season playing alongside Zach Ertz. So he wasn't even, the premier tight end for the Eagles until they traded Zach Ertz to the Cardinals. So I really like the way Goddard is progressing. And I know we've talked about this before. Every once in a while, he has those hiccups in drops or other, miscues or missteps in plays. But overall, I think the success of Jalen Hurts is a lot of it has to do with him being able to rely on Dallas Goedert as a true threat, a true option. We had the over 49.5 in Goddard's reception yards. We almost hit that in the first half. I think it was his first reception in the second half that put us over that 50-yard mark. And I didn't think that was really ever in doubt. And he actually, I think it may have been until late in the first quarter, if not early second quarter, until he got his first catch in the game. So they didn't really work him in until about midway through the first half. But for a young quarterback, inexperienced quarterback, any young quarterback or a rookie quarterback, a tight end is that quarterback's best friend. And I definitely see Hurts and Goddard developing that kind of rapport, and Goddard becoming more and more of a valuable and strong target for Hurts is only going to, help the Eagles in the long run. My biggest concern is still the defensive line and the ability to generate pressure on the quarterback. I thought, Taylor Heinicke, I know he's your boy, Mike. I thought, every time I saw Heinicke scramble out for a few, for it to make some plays with his legs, I thought to myself, yep, that's Mike's gamer right there. He's a guy's a gamer, and he knows how to.
Got heart.
He does. He fights, and we respect that. But the Eagles got to do a better job, especially against the quarterbacks that they're most likely to face in the first round of the playoffs. And I know they finished with 3 sacks, and we mentioned this on the pod Sunday. We were looking for Josh Sweat to step up and have a game. He had a really good game. I thought he had great pressure on Heinicke all day, wound up with a sack. But, notwithstanding 3 sacks, I still think they need to be able to generate some more pressure with that front four in order to compete in these playoffs. Otherwise, if they're not generating pressure with the front four, how Gannon's running the defense. They're more than willing to let receivers take anything in front of them. And that's why over the course of the year, you've seen these quarterbacks have such high completion rates like Heinicke did in the first half against the Eagles. And if they're willing to give up those yards, that's okay if that's how they want to play it, but you need to generate pressure with that front four. And I still need to see more out of them to get more confident going into these playoffs, especially against quarterbacks like Stafford, Murray, Brady, in that regard. So I'm really hoping that they can take a step forward, going into the playoffs with that pressure.
Yeah, I really think he calls a game not to lose it as opposed to going out trying to win it. And I think that's going to be a problem for them, obviously, in the playoffs. I mean, but let's be realistic. They're not poised for a run here. Like, they're going to give somebody hell. And I'm not going to count it out of the realm of possibility because, it isn't any given Sunday type of thing. But he calls a scared football game where he doesn't want to get beat deep. And that works when your offense is able to score 30-plus points. Like, that's all well and good. But when you're built off the run, you need to get stops and wear both sides of the ball down for them. Josh Sweat came up with honest to God, that might have been what swung it in our direction when he came up with that big play, because it was looking like the football team was getting ready to pull away with that. And the issue with the Eagles is once it does get too far out of control, I don't know if they really have it in them to make up that much ground. Yeah, that really is concerning. I do also blame the personnel. He's trying to put Band-Aids on wounds that you need stitches for. So he's trying to help his guys out. That's something that they're going to have to address this offseason, and they're going to have a little bit of a purse to sign somebody. They have plenty of draft capital. But I will give Washington credit where they did a really good job of knowing what the Eagles were going to try to do early. So the first drive, the Eagles were trying to run the ball, but the football team committed to stopping it. So if you make the Eagles one-dimensional, that's how they knew they could get them. And it was working for them for the entire first half. Not the entire, a good chunk of the first half. So I'm going to tip my cap to Ron Rivera playing chess. They did a good job, but just the way that game swung momentum-wise, they just don't have the roster to stop that O-line with a depleted D-line. I mean, we have to give credit to the O-line. They put together another awesome performance. And that's something that no matter who has to play the Eagles, they're going to be concerned about. Is there anything else either one of you guys wanted to take away from that or bring up?
Just real quick I just wanted to touch on Hurts real quick again. It was good to see him run a little bit again. Last week he wasn't really doing that. It was good to see the ankle, was holding up in that game. He put his foot in the ground a couple times and cut. That was just good to see. Because, I mean, that's half of his game, and that's what makes him
For sure.
Without that ability. And that's what makes the run game go with the RPOs and all that. I mean, he's a huge part of that offense, even when he's not running. But proving again that his ankle is all right and he can keep going with it is a good sign moving forward.
Yeah, I think everything builds off of that, honestly. If you really think about all the great games the Eagles offense has had, when he's able to break out of the pocket and slash you for 10 or 15 with his feet, I think that opens up everything else. And I have to give credit. I saw a tweet earlier this week. Devontae Smith should make you forget Justin Jefferson. Nothing's going to make you forget Justin Jefferson. That's a stretch. But he's making me feel better about it. Like, he's an ice pack to my headache. Like, I feel good about it. He's a gamer, man. He reminds me a little bit of I want to say like T.Y. Hilton with Andrew Luck, with Devontae and Aaron Rodgers, where he comes up with the play as it comes to him. He comes back to the ball. He reads the play as it's developing. He gets open for Jalen. Like, he's just got it. All the intangible things that you're looking for in a player, he has it. Not to mention he has all the skill to go with it. So I think he's a shining star. They finally hit one, and it's really good to see somebody that can do all those things for the Birds again.
I'm not sure if either of you guys saw this, but actually Jason Avant this week said, he compared Devonta Smith to none other than Chateau. That was his comp for Devonta Smith, which I found a bit interesting, and I don't know if I really saw it. But what I did find even more interesting is, and as Avant pointed out, is that at this point, where the Eagles are, is that it is still somewhat of a limited offense in that you are building around a young quarterback. So It's not as complex as maybe some of the other offenses in the NFL. And they're simplifying things, and rightfully so, as they should be, for Hurts in order to get the most out of him. But once they're able to kind of continue to progress on that and open up that offense a little bit and throw in some more complex schemes and get Devonta Smith into space and open things up for him, I think his talent's even going to come through even more. And I think that's going to, continue to progress and help Devonta Smith in the long run reach his potential, because I think we all see that it's there. He's absolutely a solid option. And before we end on this game, I got to say, I thought the most crucial points in this game were Sirianni deciding to go for it on 4th and short at the goal line, and both design run calls, and Boston Scott having a nose for the end zone and getting in both times. I mean, a stop on either one of those plays, and this could be a completely different game and a completely different conversation. But credit to Sirianni for trusting his guys to get that yardage and get that touchdown on each of those 4th and short situations, and credit to Boston Scott for stepping in for Miles Sanders. I mean, he is a solid running back, a solid second option when Sanders is healthy, and it was good to see him and Howard carry the load without Sanders on Sunday.
Definitely was. Shout out Nick Sirianni for having the freaking nuts to do that when all the chips are against you. You put them all back on the table. It's like, no, we're winning this game right now, win or lose. And you got to respect it. And he's been like that all season. And when it didn't work, people wanted his head. Now it's working. I'm fully bought in. He still has a fully open invitation to my grandfather's house. But here's another guy. I want to transition into something that isn't being talked about enough in the NFL, and that's Mike Vrabel, with that roster, without your best player, having a first-round bye at this current moment, but they hold all the cards, and I think they play the Texans this week. So fact check me on that. We'll check back on it.
I think you're right.
You hold all the cards.
It is the Texans.
It is the Texans. What he's been able to do without Derrick Henry, who might be the most dominant player in the NFL, you can make an argument for it. You got to tip your cap, man. And just the way he's put that defense back together, he's one of those guys you go to war for, you go to war with. Harbaugh tried to step to him, and he was like, relax, Pee-wee. Like, you don't want any fucking problems. I think something needs to be said more about Mike Vrabel as a football coach, not even a football player, but like he's a fucking gangster. And he's proven it the last few years in the NFL. I love it. What do you guys think?
He's my coach of the year. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
That team doesn't, I don't see the talent really. On the defensive side of the ball, I do. On the offensive side of the ball, they have a solid O-line. I mean, they got 3 running backs that nobody ever heard of before. A.J. Brown's a nice receiver, but I wouldn't say he's one of the best in the league. And Ryan Tannehill stinks. And they're about to get a bye going into the playoffs. I mean, that blows my mind. I try to fade that offense every chance that I get, and I have in past weeks. And he's just been awesome. That team, the defense, they're back buzzing. Last year they had a down year, but he's got them right back to where they were 2 years ago when they beat the Ravens. He's done a hell of a job.
Yeah, now you're staring at the 1 seed and a bye week going into the playoffs with the possibility of having Henry come back. You've earned the right to give Henry an extra week of rest going into the playoffs. So the idea of a Titans team with home field advantage with a healthy Derrick Henry coming back is not a team. If I'm in the AFC, it's not a team that I want to face. Whether I'm the Chiefs or anybody else in that conference, that is not a game I'm looking forward to with a healthy Derrick Henry and with that Titans defense clicking right now.
Yeah, not to mention their resume. I want to say November or September. Well, they ran through that gauntlet of Bills, Chiefs. They were playing everybody, and they just swept all of them.
Sean, we talked about that. That was one of the more impressive runs I've seen any NFL team have in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they beat all the top dogs consecutively without skipping a beat. Then they lose their top guy, and it doesn't even look like it's mattered, which is I feel weird saying it out loud, but they're still dominating on the run, sticking to their identity and just filling in. D'Onta Foreman's playing so well. I'm going to send him a nice Christmas gift because he actually won me my fantasy championship. That was just a great waiver wire find by me, and then just an even better performance by him late in the season. I hope he gets a nice deal out of this. He's clearly proven that he can be the bell cow back. Yeah, they look good. Their offensive line's good. Their running game's still strong. They still have weapons outside because like if you really think about it, AJ won them that game against the Niners. You haven't seen him all year, but he stepped up right when you needed him to. Things are clicking for them. But this is another thing, and we're about to get into the number 1 seed in the NFC. The only thing that can hurt them is a week off, because you are going to get out of the groove that they are in. They're playing so well. Like, at this point, if you are healthy and you're playing well, like, do you really even want to take 2 weeks off from football? Because I feel like all that does is makes that first quarter of the division round game sloppy and sluggish. But we'll bring up the Packers. I think it helps them so much more that they're about to get 2 studs back going late into the season. Like, and all roads are leading through Lambeau, which this year looks tough. But they look so good again too. That's another team. It's like, do you even really want time off? I don't even care if Aaron Rodgers is in a full cast. Just let the kid spin. He looks great. That offense looks great. The defense looks good. What do you guys think here? To me, the only thing that could mess them up is having 2 weeks away from football.
I'm torn. If I'm the Titans, if Derrick Henry comes back because I get the 1 week off, I mean, it's not a debate. I need Derrick Henry for my run. I mean, he's a game wrecker. He's a guy that can house anything, and is a guy that wears on you and just changes the entire game. You know, it's tough to tackle Derrick Henry for an entire game. And with the Packers, if I'm getting Bakhtiari back and Jair Alexander, same thing. I mean, these are all pro, top 3, 4, 5 of their position. I mean, you need these guys back for an elite playoff run, which, I mean, the Packers, that's all. You better win the Super Bowl, or I don't want to hear anything else about how good you are. And
Sean, I'm with you, dude. This is Super Bowl or bust.
I mean, Brady's got nothing.
It doesn't even matter. If you don't take it all the way home this year, I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear any more excuses out of Aaron Rodgers.
No, you'll be Drew Brees to me.
Like, so here's the thing. Matt LaFleur is a great football coach. He doesn't get enough credit for that because he has Aaron Rodgers, but he calls great games. Dudes are wide open all over the field. And then there are the plays that Aaron Rodgers makes the perfect back shoulder pass. So obviously, like, there's something to say. Like, when you have a talent like Aaron Rodgers, obviously it helps. No shit. But he still calls great games. I don't think enough's being talked about with him the last 2 years. Like, he needs to be more in the coach of the year conversation. You got 2 first-round buys in a row and home field advantage. And I'm not giving him as much of the blame as people did on that field goal. I know if you look at Aaron Rodgers, like, do you want the ball? If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm saying, yeah, absolutely. I'm not giving it back to Tom Brady.
In the playoffs last year, you're saying?
Yeah, that's some bitch shit in my
That's
opinion.
on Rodgers. I agree.
Yeah. Like, that's my stance on the matter, and I don't care. I'll be on the fucking cross with that. That's where I am with it. I don't know, Rob. Give me your take on the Packers. I'm a little Aaron Rodgers biased. I think he's the best talent in the NFL at quarterback. He's the most talented quarterback without a doubt in my mind. But he isn't Brady where he can ice any game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Packers are the clear front runner in the NFC, and it really is. The road goes through Lambeau at this point, and anything short of a Super Bowl appearance, maybe a Super Bowl win, would be a major disappointment in Green Bay. As far as the rest versus rust debate, for Tennessee, I think, just as you guys said, all day I will take the week off to get a healthy Derrick Henry back. End of story. As for the Packers, again, they are looking to get some guys back healthy, including, Bakhtiari and Alexander. I think they'll take that as well. And if there's anybody I trust to lead my team after a week off going into the playoffs, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's going to have that offense ready to go. I trust LaFleur for the reasons that you guys mentioned. I like him as well. And I just think this is the Packers NFC to lose at this point. With the way Tampa Bay is looking in terms of being depleted, I'm not sure if they're, I don't know if Fournette's going to be available come time to, visit Lambeau. We know Godwin's out for the year, of course, and now, I'm sure we'll get to it, but Brown is out, right? So the options are becoming more limited for Tom Brady. And we've seen Tom Brady, do a lot with a little. But in this regard, at this point in the season, I still have to give the Packers the edge over Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, especially in Lambeau the next go around. We know, off the top of my head, I don't have it, but we know how good Aaron Rodgers is at Lambeau Field. And if Tom Brady and the Buccaneers visit the Packers again this year, I would be hard pressed to go against Aaron Rodgers in that rematch. And frankly, outside of the Buccaneers, I don't see anybody else on this NFC slate that can, really challenge the Packers in Lambeau. We saw what the Rams did last year in Lambeau. I don't see them, being any better than they were last year or turning things around in that regard. I don't believe in Dallas, especially traveling to Lambeau. I mean, I really think that the Packers are in the driver's seat here. Just the way that Aaron Rodgers can make plays, and we saw it last night with some of those throws that he makes. Whether it's to Adam, the connection with Adams and Rodgers has to be one of the best connections in the NFL, if not the best connection right now.
Arguably all time.
They're so in sync. And what I found most fascinating last night was the commentary on Scantling and just the idea of getting more comfortable with Aaron Rodgers and him getting comfortable with you. And as soon as things start to click and that timing comes about between Rodgers and his receivers, I mean, just seeing the places that he put some of these balls in, I don't know if there's another quarterback in the league that could really do it like that. And not to mention the fact that they have a great 1-2 punch in Jones and Dillon. That might be the best 1-2 punch in the league as well. I mean, they were calling him Mr. Outside and Inside last night, and that's exactly how they ran him. They're using Jones to get outside on the perimeter on outside zone plays. They're using Dillon with his 250-pound frame up the middle, and he was just bulldozing over the Vikings.
Yeah, that's a bear.
So not only do you have to worry about Rodgers and making sure you have adequate protection to cover these Packers receivers and account for Rodgers' playmaking ability, but you have to be wary of that run game. I just think that, that offense, coupled with the defense playing strong and the possibility of getting one of the best cornerbacks in the league back, I just think the Packers, especially in Lambeau, are going to be a very tough out for anybody in the NFC.
Yeah, that run attack late, I mean, that is dangerous when you have to tackle. I mean, we were just talking about Derrick Henry. When you have to tackle A.J. Dillon after you've been just getting the shit beat out of you for 3 quarters, I mean, that's not fun. Nobody wants to do that.
And it's only getting colder up there. It's only getting colder up there.
Yeah.
That's a bad man. Do they have the best 1-2 punch in the league right now?
I mean, it's hard to think of another one. I mean, can you come up with another one that's better than that?
I mean, the Browns maybe would be an argument.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Talk about
underperforming. Refuses to give Nick Chubb the ball. They don't have it anymore. They did going into the season. That was the front runner, but I don't know, man. That's a Lendell White, Reggie Bush type of combination to me with Thunder and Lightning. They'll beat the hell out of you and then run right around you. That's a dangerous, dangerous group. Okay. I want to talk about a very dangerous man. This guy has 8 touchdowns and almost 1,000 yards in the last 2 weeks. And that's Joe Barrow. That is that dude. I was a huge fan at LSU. I mean, when you have Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire in your stable, yeah, you should be doing that. But to do this in Cincinnati this year, to clinch a division, go to the playoffs, I mean, you got to tip your freaking cap. That's another Zach Taylor's another guy that's in my Coach of the Year conversation. They look good. They're getting hot at the right time. That's a tough out round 1, man. That's a dangerous team. And to do it against the Crown Kings of the AFC 2 weeks before the playoffs, I think you couldn't have done it at a better time. They have to be feeling really good about their chances at it this year.
I don't think he's gotten anywhere near enough credit, Joe Burrow, these last 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people forget how bad the Bengals were. And to build it up, they didn't really build it how you're supposed to build it. They got a stud quarterback, great, and then they just got a couple toys in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Usually, you're building through the line to get that quick improvement. They got a couple toys, and this kid just took off. I mean, there's no stopping him right now, and it's not somebody that, honestly, I think the Bengals aren't that good, but I don't want to play them right now. No way.
Yeah, no, it's funny. The Giants tried to build it the same way. They did the poor man's version, but that's turning into a clown show. Joe Judge, get the fuck out of here, bro.
Don't tell that to Joe Judge.
Who are you trying to fool, bro? Look in the mirror. You're not fooling anybody. Between your antics as a coach and the football team's antics in the stadium, get the fuck out of here. That's like, you guys are why everybody thinks the NFC East is a joke. You two organizations, because the Cowboys are still great. No, not great. They're okay any given year. The Eagles can beat anybody any given Sunday, even at their worst. Joe Judge, go fuck yourself. Rob, give me your take on the Bengals.
Well, I mean, they proved us wrong, right, from Sunday. We both sat here and, we said that this is a statement game. This is a game where we're going to see how far along the Bengals are in their progression as just a franchise, being built around Joe Barrow. And, neither of us thought that they were ready to take that step and take on Kansas City, even at home. And for the most part of that game, it looked like that was the case, that, they can score some points. They can keep pace, but, they may not be able to beat a team like Kansas City. But then, they, literally, Chase turned the Jets on, throughout the game, and they really made that a game, and then close game, and then credit to Taylor for the way he handled the end of that game and getting that win against a really good Chiefs team. And, I don't think the Chiefs want to see the Bengals again, and I don't think any team wants to see Bengals again. Right now, it's look, I mean, again, we're talking about Joe Barrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, these weapons, this passing game that's been electrifying the last couple of weeks. But let's not forget that, Joe Mixon has had a solid year. He is a very capable running back, and he's a top 10 fantasy running back. He's had a great year. He's still young. And I think overall that offense is looking strong. And the defense, if they can get enough plays on defense to make some stops, they're another really tough out. As it looks right now, they're staring at the Colts coming into Cincinnati next week, depending on how things shake out at the last week. As it stands today, the Colts would be traveling to Cincinnati. And, if I'm the Bengals, I'll take Joe Burrow against Carson Wentz in a shootout. Obviously, you need to, commit to stopping Jonathan Taylor, right? But, and if you're able to limit Taylor, whether there's any stopping Jonathan Taylor at this point, that remains to be seen. But if you're able to limit and contain Jonathan Taylor and force Carson Wentz into throwing the football and having to make plays to win a game, I like the Bengals in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we all have the same formula when it comes to playoff football. You take the quarterback, no matter what. And honestly, God, looking at the playoff picture, I would want it to end right now. You have so many division rivals playing each other. Besides, I would like to swap the Eagles and the Cardinals position, make the Eagles play the Cowboys, make the Cardinals play the Rams. And then that's Saturday and Sunday. And then I believe there is going to be a Monday night game. We would get 6 unbelievable matchups. Regardless of how it shakes out, we're going to get 6 unbelievable matchups because I think anybody can beat anybody here. And we'll touch on that in 2 weeks because so much can change. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think anybody wants any problems with Joe Barrow. I don't think anybody wants any problems with that offense. If they're feeling themselves and they're rolling, any given Sunday, they could drop 50 on you. They have the run. They have the pass. And Jamar Chase, I would have never said that was the right pick, but when you get 300 receiving yards, I'm going to shut up and just let you do what you do. Kid's an animal. Yeah, so it looks like that GM made the wrong decision this current moment. Real fast, I want to touch on 2 wanky topics. The first one being Antonio Brown. This one, to me, at this point, I'm seeing so many different narratives and so many people spewing bullshit out there. If you have a mental health issue, that doesn't give you a free pass to do whatever the fuck you want to do and handle whatever situation you feel like you were slighted in, to act like an asshole. I don't know exactly what was going on in the Buccaneers locker room after he faked the vax card. Another thing, if you're going to fake it, be a man, take responsibility. He didn't take responsibility in Pittsburgh. He didn't take responsibility in Vegas. He's not taking responsibility in Tampa. At one point, are you going to look in the mirror and say, I'm a dickhead? Because that's what it is. I'm a huge Antonio Brown fan. He's an unbelievable wide receiver. But as a man, you need to be better. And you make it hard on people that actually go through things, day-to-day life, that don't have the platform you have, don't have the resources you have. You make it harder on them to go through it, and you actually undermine the mental health shit, because clearly he's got problems. I have a lot of different opinions about this on both sides, but I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that. I would love to hear it. If not, we could move on quickly.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in Antonio Brown's head. I don't know if anybody does, but there's clearly, he clearly has some problems that he's working through, and it's clear he needs help, right? Like, I mean, this isn't an isolated incident, and it's fun. It's interesting because I think I've seen a few times on the internet this week that Antonio Brown hasn't been right after that Vontaze Burfict hit in the playoffs a few years ago, right? Like that nasty shot. I don't know how much of this has to do with any injuries, head injuries, or just general mental health issues or disorders. But it's just a situation where at the end of the day, the Buccaneers needed to move on. I think until Antonio Brown either gets some help or figures things out on his own, I just think he's a liability for any given team, especially a contender like the Buccaneers. As hard as that is to say, because he is such an incredible talent and he is such a great receiver. But if not now, then when, right? Like, it's only a matter of time before something boils over, just like it did in Pittsburgh, it did in Las Vegas or Oakland at the time, it did, now in Tampa Bay, right? Frankly, he may not be on this team if it wasn't for the fact that Brady vouched for him, right?
Yep.
And there's a certain point where, we all know, you can vouch for your boy as until you're blue in the face, but eventually it's, push comes to shove, at some point, you got to let him go. You got to let him be his own person. And I think it's, I feel for the guy to some extent, right? But at the same time, Mike, as you said, like, there's a degree or a level of professionalism expected in the NFL, and the way he has handled things, throughout his tenure, each of his stops. It's a shame because it seems like a situation of talent wasted to some extent. And like I said, we don't know what's going on with Antonio Brown, but hopefully, if not this, there's some, this is a wake up call or some kind of call for him to get some help. But I think while it's unfortunate for the Buccaneers heading into the playoff run to be without another weapon, ultimately it may be best for them, to move on and to kind of get rid of the distraction that's Antonio Brown.
I think it is, and I just want to make a point. Like, this is coming from a guy that's drinking a nice bottle of red on a podcast. But there's certain ways, like, you take ownership of things that you're going through mentally. Like, DeMar DeRozan's a prime example of what he's done in the NBA, and he's voiced his issues that he deals with, but he handles them professionally. I don't want to say like a man because that's sexist, but like, he handles them very well. And he uses his platform to try to help people, not act like an asshole on national TV, essentially. And like, people had to explain that to their kids. People have to explain that to fans. Like, you just had, like, people are asking, like, what the hell was that? And I'm like, I don't even know. I'm like, guys got screws loose. Get the help you need. Deal with it however you see fit. But like, it gets to a point where you run out of strikes. He's on strike number like 7. So if this was his first time going through this or dealing with something like this, I would shoot him some bail. But if you check the history, there's a running theme, and he seems to be the problem. And a side note, God bless Mike Tomlin for having to deal with him and Le'Veon Bell at the same time. He's gone up a couple pegs in my book. over the course of the last couple of days. I don't know how he did it. Mike Tomlin, God bless you. God bless your family. So I have something funny to lighten up the mood. This is a tweet that I came across from Harrison P. Kent the Fourth.
Who?
Read it off. Some guy. I'm gonna read it off to you. Jerry Rice, who laughably ran a 4.7140, would be a practice squad player in today's NFL. It gets better. A prime Rice, my algorithm suggests, would be the 193rd most effective wide receiver today. Rice, enabled by coach and quarterback talent, was somewhat effective in his day. But today's wide receivers are a different breed. Let me give you a quick backstory on Harrison P. Kent the Fourth. Founder and CEO of Kent Analytics. Football data analyst. Harvard. Phi Beta Kappa. Fluent in Latin. Okay, Harrison P. Kent. Let me break this shit down for you real fucking fast. I don't care that you're in beta. You've never played football, and I don't care if you never played football, because there's a lot of guys I know that never played football that know the game very well. Don't try to discredit the greatest wide receiver, arguably anybody's ever seen. And I'll break down some numbers. He had 4 1,500-yard seasons. This is when they played 16 games. His best season, and this is all regular season stats, 1,848 yards. That's practice squad material. He had 15 touchdowns 5 times. He had 22 in the regular season. That was his best. 3-time Super Bowl champ, 1-time Super Bowl MVP, 10 times first team All-Pro. So off of Sean's math, he doesn't even fit an NFL roster these days. But based off your algorithms on a 4.740 yard, please, Rob, give me your instant takeaway from this.
Actually, my instant takeaway is like, this is ironic, right? Because like over the holidays, these kinds of conversations come up, and this is exactly the kind of conversation we had at the family New Year's, day festivities, right? Talking about players, and specifically Jerry Rice, guys like that in that era playing in today, and whether or not they can have the same success, similar success, compete, etc. Whether it's Jerry Rice playing in the NFL or Will Chamberlain playing in the NBA today. The fact of the matter is, I firmly believe this is that over time, athletes generally get better, right? The average athlete in the NFL today is faster, stronger than the average athlete in the NFL during Jerry Rice's prime. That's just a matter of, human development, resources, technology, etc. It's all those things. With that being said, Jerry Rice is the GOAT. He's the GOAT receiver, and he's one of the greatest of all time. You can't, sure, if I put, Paul Hornung or Jim Brown or, Y.E. Tittle, like in today's NFL, yeah, they're going to struggle too. Like it's all relative to the era in which you played. Like that's why, today, now that we play the teams play a full 17 games, things are going to change in terms of records and standings, right? You're going to have more opportunities to pad those stats and increase your stats. But these kinds of takes, to me, it's just, they're just laughable because, right, like everything is relative with respect to the era in which you played, right? And Jerry Rice, if he were to play today, who's to say he wouldn't be even better with the way that the NFL is played today? That's the other side of things, right? Like, Jerry Rice played in an era where cornerbacks can touch you. They could grab you. They could defend you. Today's NFL, that's not allowed. That's a 5-yard penalty and an automatic first down, as we well know, right? So the rules are completely different. Understanding, talent progresses on average. The rules are completely different. The league is completely different. The amount of times that quarterbacks drop back to pass is completely different. So it cuts both ways on these types of, past versus present arguments. So I think the GOATs are always the GOATs and the greatest of all times, the best in their era. They're always going to be the best of that era. And, that's the ultimate discussion is, can they compete in today? Relative, yes. speaking to the era in which they played in their competition, absolutely. I mean, I know these analytic guys like to throw out these numbers and this and that. But another thing too is like Jerry Rice had a slow 40 time. There's players today in today's NFL that have slow 40 times. But as anybody that plays football know, Mike, as Sean, you guys all know, your 40 time doesn't always necessarily translate to game speed, right? Like
nope.
Nobody thought Justin Jefferson was going to be as solid as he is. Justin Jefferson has just put up the 2 most prolific receiving yards or receiving years for a wide receiver in his first 2 years in the league in the entire history of the NFL. He came out of LSU as a slot receiver. Nobody saw the speed that you see Justin Jefferson have on game day in his 40 time in the combine on college. Nobody saw that. So again, to rely on a 40 speed or anything else, like it's just completely different from game speed. And I think Jerry Rice actually might have said this. I think I heard an interview earlier this year with him. Is like it all changed. As long as he saw the guys behind him when he was looking up the jumbotron on the way in the end zone, that's all that mattered, right? So I think, that's a whole nother issue, like, 40 speed versus game speed. I believe they're 2 completely different things. But on the whole, I mean, these arguments are silly. Jerry Rice is the greatest of all time for a reason.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Sean, did the guy forget how to run a route if he played in today's game? I mean, I don't even understand what that guy's trying to say. I'm under the belief that the greats, when you're really a great, you would at least be very good in any era. I hate when people do the LeBron couldn't play in the 80s. Yeah, get the hell out of here. I mean, LeBron's more talented than all of those dudes damn near combined. And Jordan could play in today and average 50 if he wanted to. I mean, the greats are the greats for a reason, and they would succeed in any era. Harold the Fourth or whatever the hell his name is not worth the breath. So that's all I got.
Yeah, no, he's a troll. Save that for the beta reunion at Harvard this year. You bring that up then. I wanted to end this on a more positive note and break down some of the awards that we foresee happening. Like I want to go through some rankings. Everybody give their takes on MVP, that's signed, sealed, delivered. Coach of the year, defensive player of the year, rookie of the year, comeback player of the year. I'm going to start with my top 5 of coaches. I have Mike Vrabel at 1, Zach Taylor at 2, Matt LaFleur at 3, Nick Sirianni at 4, and then Belichick at 5. How do you guys see that shaking out?
I'm surprised you have Zach Taylor so high.
I just think they're so far ahead of where they should be. I mean, to win
that
division,
they definitely are.
Year 2, I mean, you just got your franchise quarterback. I mean, you look at the Jaguars getting their franchise quarterback, they're still a clown show. For them to go and seal it against the Chiefs, to me, just means that much more. And that might have been top to bottom, not the best, but the toughest division to win. And to do it in that fashion, I'm giving him the number 2 nod. I'm giving it to Mike Vrabel, just off the fact that he should get the 1 seed, barring anything crazy. Because a win hurts the Texans at this point. Granted,
sure.
You don't go out to lose any football game in the NFL, but Mike Vrabel, if he can get a bye without his best player, with that quarterback, with that roster,
with the schedule they played.
With the schedule they played, they had a very tough schedule. Might have been the toughest in the NFL. I have to give him coach of the year. And then I think a lot needs to be said for Matt LaFleur. 2 back-to-back number 1 seeds in the NFC. And then Sirianni just getting to the playoffs with the Eagles roster after like week 3, people were calling for his head. I think he's up there in that conversation. And then Belichick bounce back year. I mean, we're talking about the greatest of all time. That should be no surprise. But to me, taking Mac Jones, listening to his good friend Nick Saban, and putting that together the way he did so quickly, he's right back in that conversation as coach of the year. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. So, Sean, take it away.
Yeah, we got the same 5, different order. I go Vrabel, LaFleur, Belichick, Sirianni, Zach Taylor. Belichick, I think, deserves a hell of a lot of credit. I mean, with the rookie quarterback coming into this year, they spent a bunch of money. I mean, they spent like $100 million on tight end. Like, they got a whole bunch of like just some weird stuff. They still don't have a receiver. I mean, I think they're overperforming. Their defense is back. I think Belichick's maybe done his best job as a coach because we don't really know what Mac Jones is without Belichick. We know Brady is Brady.
Yeah.
Zach Taylor, hell of a job. Sirianni clinching the playoffs before week 18. I mean, just making the playoffs, but I mean, making it with a week still to go. If you would have told me that before the season started, I would have never believed you. I mean, I think their win total was over under 6.5. I mean, the guys exceeded all expectations after week.
Yep.
I mean, they were 2-5. So after that Raiders game, I want to say week 7. I mean, they've been pedal to the metal, and they've been awesome. And I think I'm missing somebody. Oh, LaFleur. I mean, LaFleur doesn't get enough credit because he has Rodgers, like we were saying. But the guy's been coaching and has already won damn near 30 games. He's been coaching for 2 years. I mean, yeah. I don't even know if he's like 40, low 40s. I mean, the guy's got a long career. He's definitely a hell of a coach and a hell of a play caller.
Yep. Rob, what's your list?
I think it starts with Vrabel for me at the top as well. I mean, to see the way Tennessee has just kind of plodded along this year and to remain at the top of the AFC conference and stack the AFC conference, what he's been able to do to keep that team moving forward without Derrick Henry, I think speaks volumes to his ability as a coach. You know, I meant to mention this when we were discussing the Titans earlier. You know, they're just that quintessential sound fundamental football team, right? Like he's doing all of this with a quarterback for all intents and purposes that, you know, we would all consider a game manager, right? Ryan Tannehill does not move. He does not wow you with his arm or his throwing ability, but as long as he continues to make good decisions and play smart football, he's competent enough to take Tennessee, you know, through this playoff run. So that coupled with the way he's handled the Henry injury, the way he's been able to get his defense to compete, and now sitting at the top of the AFC, I think Vrabel's the clear-cut favorite. I think there's something to be said for both LaFleur and Taylor. I'd have them, you know, probably as like 2A in the way that they've been able to go about the season. I don't know if, you know, for me, LaFleur, I don't know if he's overcome as much as maybe as Vrabel or some of these other guys have. Excuse me. And I think having the MVP and Aaron Rodgers always helps as well.
Definitely.
But absolutely Sirianni belongs in the conversation. You know, starting 2-5, you know, going on the run that they have, showing that development as a first-year head coach in adapting to the players around him and being able to adapt the way he calls games and coaches the team to put them in the position that they are today, where they are have a playoff spot before the last week of the season. I think there's a lot to be said with that. Not necessarily. I don't see first-year head coach getting the award. I think it's Vrabel's. I think he's earned it. I think he's done a solid job in Tennessee since he's got there. And I think this year I would be looking to see Vrabel get that award just with the job he's done this year.
I agree. Rob, you had a good take on the defensive player of the year and the rookie of the year. Walk me through your thought process with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Micah Parsons, fellow Penn State alum, I think he's a clear front runner for defensive rookie of the year. I think that's all but a done deal. My question is you know, why not defensive player of the year as well? Mm-hmm. The way these awards shake out, you know, I could see the NFL going with Micah Parsons, easy choice of rookie of the year. You know, giving credit to somebody else like a TJ Watt for defensive player of the year. But I mean, Michael Parsons hasn't missed much, if any, time, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like, you know, TJ Watt's been out, you know, here and there throughout the season. I know the value he brings to Pittsburgh. I know, you know, how you know, solid of a defender he is, and he is one of the best defenders in the league. But the way Michael Parsons has played, you know, even as a rookie, the impact he's had on this Dallas defense to take it to where it is today, and to be in the position where they are, you know, now to make a playoff run, I think there's an argument to be made that Micah Parsons should be, you know, if not, you know, both, you know, rookie of the year and defensive player of the year with the way he's contributed to this Dallas defense as a rookie.
Yeah, and I think they weigh team success into it. If the Steelers don't somehow sneak in, I would be mad if they didn't give both to Micah Parsons for everything he's done on the field. You look at the Cowboys' record, where they are. They win the division. They have a home playoff game. If the Steelers don't get in, is TJ Watt really Defensive Player of the Year? That's just my opinion. Sean, you have a take on that?
Yeah, I think I don't know how many games I probably should have done some research here, but I know he's missed a couple due to COVID. He was banged up for a little bit. The guy has 21 and a half sacks, I think, or 22 and a half sacks. They're going for the all-time record, I want to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you're right. You're right.
I don't understand how he's not the Defensive Player of the Year. The guy's probably the second best defensive player in the league behind Aaron Donald. And, he drives that whole defense. That defense is not special. And without him, it's average. Probably below average.
Yep.
If you watch the game last night, I think the game last night said everything. If he wasn't sacking Baker, he was dropping into a little zone and batting everything he threw down. There's nothing that guy can't do.
I think talent-wise, it's clear TJ Watt is better. I just think if you have to go off of 1 year's production for the team and individually, if he wasn't going for the sack record, that's a great narrative. I just lean Micah Parsons. Maybe I'm a little biased towards the Penn State talent. You and I both know Frank has been a huge advocate of Micah Parsons for the last 4 years.
For sure.
He's known about him coming out of high school. He's a generational talent. I think he's going to get a defensive MVP. It's not going to be this year, but it'll be sometime very soon.
Probably multiple.
Yeah, and then I think it has to be Jamar Chase for offense. Me personally, it would have to be. You could Mac Jones is another one. What do you guys think about that?
I was Mac Jones until Sunday. I don't know. How do you not give that kid?
That's fair.
I do think Mac Jones deserves a ton of credit for being a rookie and leading a team that frankly stunk last year to the playoffs. I think he should get a ton of credit. But Jamar Chase is just a different cat.
I agree. So I'm sorry, Rob, go ahead.
I think it's all in how you take a look at like Player of the Year and how you assess that, right? So, to me, Jamar Chase is hands down the most dynamic offensive rookie this year. With the talent and especially the production that he's put up in the last couple of weeks, clearly I think he's the most dynamic. But when you look at Mac Jones at the most important position in the game as a rookie and what he's been able to do and how he's been able to manage the offense, with the of course with the help and the tutelage of the great Bill Belichick, and to bring the Patriots back to where they are now, I think there's something to be said with that, right? So to the extent that there's an edge for Mac Jones, again, it's the role he's playing in leading that offense and the team as quarterback. I think that has a lot to do with where he stands in this race. But if we're just simply looking at in terms of production and the talent level and what we've seen out of these guys, it's hard not to go with Jamar Chase as well.
Yeah. I just don't think Mac Jones statistically had a good enough year to battle the Bengals winning the division and the numbers Jamar Chase has put up. But I think
what hurts them is them being a predominant, or hurts him, and this is them being a predominantly run team.
Yeah.
It's not like the offense is built around him.
Yeah, it doesn't run through Mac Jones.
Yeah, it's not just all on Mac Jones's arm.
I don't want this to get misinterpreted. Mac Jones has won them tough games.
Definitely.
He's gone above and beyond expectations. I'm a huge Mac Jones fan, and I think he fits perfectly into the Bill Belichick system. But it's just really hard to take away from Jamar Chase after the success that statistically he's going out of his freaking mind. He's an animal. The Bengals winning the division this year, I think, solidifies him as the winner, in my opinion. But yeah, that's really all I can take away. I'm looking at it. It's really unfortunate the way they shaped this out. I guess when they were scheduling it going into the season, the Dolphins-Patriots was supposed to be a bigger game. But I really wish they saved Bills-Patriots for this week, because this would essentially be for the division, for home field first round playoff game. That would just be a really good one. It's a shame that the Jets just still stink. Zach Wilson, I will say, is progressing a little bit in the right direction. He's not looking like a total miss. Robert Salah has been able to put together some tough games for the Jets lately. He's got a couple coaching blunders that have cost them, but besides that, the NFL missed on that one. And I feel like this is a layup where it's like Bills, who's the next team that could be in it? It's the Patriots. Like, give the people what they want for a division deciding matchup. I don't think I'm the only person that thinks that. But yeah, boys, that's really all I have to cover up last week and going into this week. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add?
No, I mean, I think this is going to be a weird week just with the way that, in terms of motivation, who's playing for what, where folks fall in the standings. There's some games that mean a lot more than others. I think the most interesting game, the biggest game of the year is going to be the late game, the San Diego, Las Vegas game. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in that one to see who's going to fight in for a playoff spot. But otherwise, I'm going to be treading lightly this week, especially just given, I mentioned you, Mike, a couple of days ago we said, Dallas is only given 2.5 in Philly. That's an interesting line. And then, a day later, the Eagles now have 12 folks on the COVID list. Yeah. That line's at 7 points. So there's just, I guess, too much volatility right now, coupled with a weird week in terms of who's playing for what and where the motivation is for me to lean strongly on any given side at the moment. I'll be keeping an eye out for certain games like that Las Vegas, San Diego game. Or the Los Angeles game. I thought it was interesting to see that line originally open up at 2.5. And I think if that, it looked like that was shredded down towards that way, I think there's a lot of potential love on the Raiders as an underdog at home. I'm looking to back the Chargers in that game if I can get that at under a field goal.
Yeah, that one's weird, and that's just one of those tough matchups. I mean, Derek Carr just keeps proving people wrong, and at this point, he's 10 weeks overdue.
Yeah, that's another guy that deserves a ton of credit.
Yep.
I mean, I hate that team, and they just win every freaking week. I think that team stinks, and I don't know how they win. I don't know why. He deserves a ton of credit.
Another Paisan. He needs to get that job. And give him a good contract. Give him another year or two. For sure. He's got a winning record and a chance to make the playoffs with everything they've been through. I mean, I don't think – I think I forgot him in the Coach of the Year conversation. He's not the Coach of the Year, but he's somebody that I'm definitely going to tip my cap to. Definitely impressed with how they've persevered over the course of this season. Derek Carr, I don't know why he's just such an easily hateable guy, but he keeps winning tough football games. So I don't know who I'm ready to pick in that. Justin Herbert doesn't have as much experience. Derek Carr's gotten his heart broken so many times already, so I feel like this is his chance to leave it all out there. But we'll definitely touch more on that on Sunday. Tune in Sunday morning. We'll definitely be doing a nice little stream, going through the whole slate. Whatever we can find, whatever good value we can find, we'll definitely have good plays out there. Yeah, boys, I think I feel good about it. How do you guys feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's shaping up to be a great playoff. I was, I'm looking at these, particularly on the AFC side. Some of these matchups, these are incredible matchups.
Yep.
They all look to be really good, especially with a few of those divisional matchups, like you mentioned, Mike. And the NFC side as well. I think the biggest thing is that the road to the Super Bowl in the NFC goes through Lambeau, and who can step up to the plate and challenge Green Bay and Lambeau? At the moment, I don't see anybody doing that. But it's going to be really fun to watch. And I think this week is really all about, seeing how the final standings shake out at the bottom there with the AFC picture. I think at this point for NFC, it's really a matter of seeding. I'd be surprised to see the Saints sneak in over San Fran. But on that side, I think it's more about seeding. So I think it's really getting ready and gearing up for this playoff run.
Yeah, I think we're poised for a really good one. I think this might be one of the best wild card weekends I can remember. Anybody can really beat anybody. And we're looking at a lot of rivalries teeing up against each other. I'm really excited. I hope nothing crazy happens this week where we get it to pan out the way we would want it. Yeah, that's it, boys. I feel all right. Sean, any last minute touches?
I just want the playoffs to stay exactly how they are. I don't care about seeding, but I think you got the best 14 teams in the playoffs, which I think is rare. The Eagles are probably the worst team in the playoffs, which is fine with me because that's my team. So,
yep.
Everybody else. I mean, who's the 7 seed in the AFC?
Chargers. That right now is the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait for the playoffs.
I'm ready to roll. Chargers, Kansas City. That's gonna be a great matchup.
Out the gate.
Hell yeah! Woo. Hell yeah!
Mike, you get your
rivalry.
You'll get your wish wild card weekend. I mean, if it stays as the way it is now, you got Bills Patriots going at it again wild card weekend.
You know what? You're right. I'd rather save it for wild card weekend. So maybe the NFL's on to something that I don't know about. Maybe they're one step ahead of me. I'm not going to give them that much credit, but I'll give them like a fighter's chance. All right, boys. Until next time, we'll touch base on Sunday. Everybody tune in on Sunday. Follow us on Twitter at Take Your Pick. Follow us on Instagram, Take Your Pick 92, because some freaking lizard has Take Your Pick. Get out of here. All right, gentlemen. Good cast.